Live from Houston, Texas, a show for local business owners. This is Business Houston Podcast. If you're a small or medium-sized business, this is your source for trends, interviews, and tips for winning in today's economic climate. Presented by the BBB for Greater Houston and South Texas. You're listening to Business Houston, and this is your host, Matt Bertram.
Hello, this is Matt Bertram. I'm back again with the Houston Business Podcast. I have Peary here with Fast Track Roofing. Peary, how are you doing today?
All good.
Peary, it's good to have you on as a BBB award winner. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and your business?
Great. I live in Whitehall, Texas, and Houstonian. I've been in business here since 1967. It was just after the Civil War, and but I've been in business with a number of different industries. We've been in business with this particular entity since 2014. We originally started out as a full-blown remodeling company, and we split the roofing operation off about 3 or 4 years ago, and it's a separate entity, and so we have a full roofing operation.
Fantastic. So what are the areas you service, and maybe is there something you specialize in as far as roofing? Because I know there's like metal roofing, and there's some different kind of caveats to it.
Yes, well, we specialize in single family houses.
Okay.
We did over 2,000 houses in the complete remodeling business. Those were for investor houses. I called them death, dying, and destruction houses, but those were where investors would buy property, and then they would come to us, and we would remodel it, and they would either put it on the market to sell it or to rent it. But at the same time, we also did about 1,500 roofs. So those are all single-family houses. We don't work on commercial. We don't work on metal. We work on single-family houses. So that's where our experience is, and that's where our niche is, and that's where we stay, is in single-family residences only. Now we're working not only in the investor side, but also in the retail side, and there's a difference in those two markets.
Okay, and what geographic areas are you servicing those single-family homes in?
Those would be in the greater metropolitan area. We go up to Montgomery County, Galveston County, Brazoria, Fort Bend, and over to Waller. So about 50 miles outside Houston. Okay.
And it looks like you also offer financing. I got your website pulled up here. Is that anything you want to talk about or share?
Yeah, that's a very integral part in the financing. We have some extremely good options with financing that we have secured. A roof is obviously a fairly large purchase for the homeowner, and they can take and get financing as low as virtually nothing down, over 10 to 12 years, something like that. But we have about 4 or 5 different plans that are very good and certainly low interest rates. We have a plan that if you pay off within a certain number of months, you don't have to pay any interest. So they're all good.
Well, fantastic. Well, tell me a little bit. I know that Houston's been, over the last couple of years, gone through a lot with floods and ice freezes and hail and all kinds of things. Even COVID, right, has affected Texas and Houston, like much of the rest of the country. How has COVID affected the roofing business in particular?
Well, fortunately, we were an exempt business, so we were not confined and not allowed to work. So the roofing operation really didn't slow down because we're working on the outside of houses. and so we didn't need to come into contact with anyone. One of the other aspects that we do, which is somewhat different from other roofing companies in the Houston area, is that we don't have to do a face-to-face interview with the homeowner. We can do all of our projections 99% of the time by satellite.
Oh wow! Okay.
So we're able to generate a quote based on some very detailed software.
Like Google Earth? Are you like using Google Earth, or what are y'all using?
Well, they certainly use a version, I guess, of Google Earth, which is fairly new, that allows us to see the peaks and valleys and the overall square footage of the roof. Therefore, we can generate a estimate and a quote. About the only thing that we would have to send a roofing consultant out would be in the event that it was covered up by trees or you just couldn't see it. But otherwise, we don't have to do that. So a potential client can call in, give us an address, and we can take a satellite photograph and give them the measurements in the space of several hours. So the other thing that this eliminates, which is a good thing for the homeowner, is that they don't have to take and meet someone there. So with Houston being as spread out as it is, to get a roofing consultant from the Galleria, where our office is, out to the Woodlands where somebody might be, or Katy, in 5 o'clock traffic when these people get home, either the client's late and hung up in traffic, or our sales consultant, our roofing consultant, is tied up in traffic. And so you end up with this disconnect. Using satellite technology, we don't have to fool with that.
Yeah, and they're doing meetings virtually and get everything out, and you have to interact with the customer.
Right. Right. It's all virtual. Yeah.
Yeah. Are you getting any feedback on me? I'm getting a little feedback on my end. I just want to make sure.
Awesome.
Okay, perfect. Hopefully it's very clear. All right. Well, why don't you tell me a little bit about maybe what the BBB means to you, and tell us a little bit about the award that you won.
Well, this is basically an unregulated industry. There is no licensing requirement in the state of Texas to be a roofer. We have heard that there are somewhere around 3,500 roofers in the greater Houston area. Now, the only licensing agency of any credibility in the state of Texas is the RCAT. That's the Roofing Contractors Association of Texas. And they have a very extensive and exhaustive training program in order to pass the test to be licensed. We are licensed through them. I would expect that the legislature in the next couple of years probably will pass legislation that will require roofers to pass some sort of test, whether they have insurance or whatever. So anything that we can do to improve credibility or to show that we are credible, which BBB is a very integral part of that, where they come in and people can see that, well, these guys are not some fly-by-night guy who just, flew in here from some part of the country. And they can see that we have viability, we have insurance requirements, all of those kind of things, all of those factors add up in our favor to be able to show that we're different from the guy who just chucking the truck.
No, absolutely. I think BBB was first really focused on accreditation, right? Accrediting businesses, having a forum where businesses can work out differences with customers, where everything's completely transparent and visible. So I think the BBB for any business adds that layer of accreditation to know that you're working with a trustworthy business. So absolutely, I think that that is true. So, tell me a little bit more about maybe what's happening in Houston, like what type of, what's the ideal customer, right? Like, so you have a geographic area, you work with, family homes. Is there a niche in particular that like is the ideal customer? You have financing. Like what is the person that I think you could help the most if there was if we wanted to kind of narrow it down?
Well, I think that where the BBB comes from, or where the BBB is certainly helpful to us, is assuring particularly the homeowner. There's a difference between, as I mentioned earlier, an investor mindset and a homeowner. A homeowner, we can right now, we are a GAF certified installer. We can give a homeowner a 50-year warranty on a roof. So an investor may not need that because they're interested in providing a roof that for a house that they either want to rent or they want to sell. They're not going to live there for 50 years. So there's a different mindset between an investor client and a homeowner client. The homeowner client, and then you have to look at the homeowner client and you have to analyze, okay, is this a newly married homeowner? Or they just moved in here? This is their first house? You know, some young couple that just got married at 25 or 27 or whatever age they got married at may not be interested in a 50-year warranty. This may be their first house. So you really have to be able to look at what their purposes are, because one roof doesn't fit all. So that's what we do, and I think that the more credibility we can show, whether it's certification, insurance, BBB certainly, and the award that we won for the winner of this 2021, all of those things help to assure the potential customer that we're going to, if we put the roof in, we're going to be here and we're going to service what it is we sell.
I love that. Is there any tips that you might want to share that you've like learned over the years? Maybe it's to someone looking for a roof. Maybe it's to someone in the Houston area or another business owner that you might want to pass along. It's you've been in business a long time. You've been very successful because you're servicing a niche that there's a true need there. And so, is there anything just across the spectrum that you think might be helpful that you want to kind of share with the audience?
Well, what was that old saying about measure twice and cut once? That's pretty much follows the roofing industry. This industry, being unregulated, we hear horror stories, every couple of days from somebody who went out and paid in advance for a roof and the guy never showed up or he never finished, all that kind of stuff. I would tell anybody who's interested in purchasing a roof, whether it's a homeowner who's going to be there 50 years or a new couple or whether it's an investor, is to get references, check BBB to see if they're approved, check their insurance. Let me tell you, we see insurance fraud. Insurance fraud is a huge thing, and it is so easy to make a fraudulent policy where it looks like you're covered, but you're not. But we would say, look at the references, look at their longevity, look at the financing. If you pick up, we've talked to people in Louisiana after the last hurricane that came through, and of course the roofers have moved over there. A lot of them have moved over there. Well, do those guys have insurance that covers them in Louisiana? Who knows? I don't know. So don't be afraid to ask for insurance. Don't be afraid to ask for references. Don't be afraid to ask for certifications. The other thing that I think that is truly missing here is insurance fraud. 2 years ago, the state legislature passed laws that prohibit the customer, in other words, the homeowner, from accepting payment back to cover their deductible. It's a felony. And it must be included, that language must be included in the contract between the homeowner and as well as a company like ourselves that says you acknowledge that if you do this, you could be convicted of fraud, of felony fraud. So we know a lot of competitors just, number one, are unaware of that language change and those requirements. And certainly the customers are unaware that if they get paid $2,000 to put a sign in their yard, that is illegal. And the insurance department, Texas Department of Insurance, is filing upon those people.
Oh, wow. Wow. No, that's interesting. You even brought something up, like from a payment term standpoint. I did have a family member, like an extended family. They had like a ranch house, and they had paid somebody to redo the roof, and they paid them all in up front, and the roofer ran off.
Ran off. You don't want to do that. No, you don't want to do that.
Yeah, and so I think that that's a really, really important point.
And Matt, cheaper is not always better. I mean, you get what you pay for, and you got to ask yourself, why doesn't this guy have any insurance? Or give me a certificate, or why doesn't he have any references, or why isn't he a member of the BBB? I mean, those are all questions that the customer needs to ask.
No, I 100% agree. So Peary, tell people how they might be able to get in touch with you and Fast Track Roofing.
Well, Fast Track Roofing is obviously on the web at fasttrackroofing.com.
Yeah.
Our phone number is 346-333-7663, which spells roof, ROOF. Not that everybody uses that. We're on Facebook. We're everywhere we can possibly be. We're in the phone book. I guess there's a phone book now. I don't know. But we're pretty easy to find.
FastTrackRoofing.com, 346-333-7663 for anyone that is listening.
There you go.
Awesome. Well, Peary, is there anything else that we didn't cover that you wanted to share?
No, sir. I think that I would just, I'm sorry that your friend lost their money for what they did, but, this isn't any different from anywhere else. Just check out who you're doing business. There are a lot of very good, legitimate roofers in Houston. I'm not trying to say all of them are bad, but there are some, and we would like to get rid of them, obviously. So if you're going to do business with the roofer, make sure they've got experience, they've got insurance, make sure they've got a contract. I mean, you need a contract. If a guy doesn't have a contract, why doesn't he have a contract? And you need references, and you certainly need the Better Business Bureau.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for so much being on the Business Houston podcast, brought to you by the BBB.
Thank you so much. Have a good day.
You too.
Thanks so much for listening. Business Houston puts a spotlight on local small and medium-sized business, interviewing those successful business owners in Houston and those business owners that are winning in today's economic climate. Business Houston is presented to you by the BBB of Greater Houston and South Texas. Make sure to like, rate, and review the show. We'll be back soon. But in the meantime, hook up with us on social media at Hugh Biz Podcast. That's HOU Biz Podcast. Until next time, this is Business Houston.